Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate the nice introduction, and I just did want to reiterate that there are a lot of slides. If you've been with us in the past, you know that we do a lot of traveling. It takes several days to make the circuit on the California Spring Trials trip, and so therefore you see a lot of plants. So the handout has the list of the names of plants that I'm going to be talking about today, and I also wanted to point out that there's, of course, many more plants that I don't have time to talk about. So I tried to pick the ones that I thought might have the most interest to people in our region of the country as far as production and also consumer use. We did change it up just a little bit this year by going from north to south instead of from south to north. So we started up in the Watsonville area at Pacific Plug and Liner, and they had their usual beautiful displays, and we immediately found some awesome plants. This new euphorbia called Miner's Merlot really fits our Texas Superstar euphorbia group that we have promoted for winter use in Texas. And this is the kind of foliage that you would get on this, and these are what the flowers would look like in the spring. Great container plant. This one is supposed to be more heat tolerant, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what we can do with this when I think we're going to set this up to do some trials later in the year and also next year. I also thought this Pentacetum was quite interesting. We have a lot of trouble with plants that have this particular color and habit and everything that don't do very well in our heat, but being a Pentacetum, I think we might have a better shot at being able to get this chartreuse color into the landscape that's being tolerant of our heat and humidity. Hellebores, they have a number of newer lines of hellebores, and this plant can take a long time to get established in gardens, but these newer types that they have look good in containers so that they are something that you could sell. Of course, it's a little bit more of a high-end specialty type product requiring special siting and that sort of thing, but it's still a very long-lived perennial when you get it in the right place in our landscapes here. Also, Terra Nova Nurseries was showing there, and they had this beautiful acanthus called Whitewater that we found particularly interesting, and which is something that I think some people have been playing around with in this region, and so something to take a look at. Also there showing was the Sunset Western Garden Collection, which also always has a lot of interesting plants. And this year there was a new salvia called Nectar Purple that looks kind of like some of the new Garnitica breeding that's been coming out. So I'm thinking that this one is going to be something worth taking a look at for our region as well. After Pacific Plug and Liner, we moved down the road to Benary, which is not very far away. This is the Benary breeder David Charnecki with his superhero marigolds. David graduated from Texas A&M, so we're always proud to see our graduates out in the industry like this. One of the big new things I thought at Benary this year is the new improvement on the graffiti series of pentas, the Graffiti 2020. And what they've done is they've improved the vigor of some, in particular the vigor of the white. The flowers were a very nice large size, and then they also have within the new series, they've got the first bicolor pentas that's from seed. So this was pretty interesting. Moving into begonias, which of course is one of the things that Benary is best known for. They have a new super cool series, which is going to be kind of like the sprints as far as needing shade, I think, in our climate. But these are supposed to be very tolerant of cool temperatures so that you could produce them pretty early in the season. And so they may have some benefits that way, but still have the garden performance that some of the other series have that they have available. They also had some new colors in their nonstop series. Of course, these are tuberous types, which are have kind of a tough time in our heat. But as far as flowering potted plants, these things are really nice, and I think kind of one of the industry standards of this particular type of begonia. They've also got some of these Boliviensis types, this funky series. In the past, they only had one color, the pink, and they've added 3 new colors, the white, light pink, and orange, which you'll see presented here. These have been really interesting in trials. It's not so much the heat that kills them, it's overwatering. So if they can be sited in shade, particularly like on a patio under an overhang where you can control the irrigation, all the better. Because keeping them too wet will kill them much quicker than the heat actually itself. They did have a new color in their big series, which is, you know, one of the big semperflorens types in the industry. This is a big pink bronze leaf. And of course, they had some beautiful displays. And this is these are all my traveling companions here this year. We got Russell Plowman, then myself, then Tim Davis, who's also from Texas A&M, Nathan Turner, he and Russell hail from Texas Tech, and then Gary McDonald from the University of Arkansas. Also, moving into some of the other specialty type things they had some new Bidens, and you're going to see a lot of Bidens in this talk. It's an interesting plant. I think is a great container plant for us, and some of these newer types with the bigger flowers are really pretty interesting. This is the Takatuka series, the red with yellow center, and you can see these flowers are really showy compared to some of the ones that we've seen in the past. That's a picture of it. And used in a container, mixed container, and then this is the orange with yellow center. And then a cool season item that they had got a new series of pansies called Cats. Notice the whiskers and all of the different flowers, and you can see the white and yellow there that they've got on display. All right, then going over Hecker Pass, we get over to the other side towards Gilroy, and this is Proven Winners. And as they've shown at this particular winery in the past, and got the tent set up. And by the time we got there, the rain was over. Thank goodness. We were still walking on pieces of plywood to stay out of the mud, but that's okay. We saw a lot of really beautiful plant material. This is a new Helianthus called Suncredible, which is a very well branched, as you can see, and something that is supposed to continue branching and reblooming all summer. So this is, I think, kind of an exciting introduction. We've got some new petunias in the Supertunia group. This is a new white one in the Vistas to go along with things like Bubblegum Pink called Snowdrift. I've also got a new Supertunia called Raspberry Rush, which is going to have a little bit tighter of a habit, a little closer to the ground, but that bicolor on the color with the flower color and everything is pretty unique in this trailing petunia group. Also, they added a double petunia called Sharon, which is kind of interesting. I'm thinking this is going to be a really good container type plant, but still fairly vigorous. And then adding to this mini Vista section of the Supertunia series called Indigo Improved. This is an improvement over the last one. I think the flowers are a little bit larger. You can see the smaller flowers in the variety that's in the background on the left. But anyway, this represents an improvement. I really like these. They've got smaller flowers, but they've got tons of flowers, and they make a real nice ground hugging type mound. So pretty cool. They have introduced an entire new series of pentas, vegetative pentas. This is the Sunstar series, and so that's going to be interesting. They look to be pretty vigorous, but well branched and bushy, so that should be an advantage there. They've also are continuing to expand some of their food type items. This is a beautiful strawberry, and the color of the flowers on this one, the Buried Treasure Red, I think really lends it to baskets and that sort of thing. I know in South Texas they do some of these strawberries in baskets and stuff for Valentine's Day, and you know, this would be a pretty cool thing to do for that sort of thing. Also, Proven Winners has formed an alliance with Abbott IPCO, and they're going to be marketing a lot of the caladiums that are from Abbott IPCO, which I think is going to be pretty awesome. A neat way to get some of these more unusual, newer varieties into the market. You see things like Bottle Rocket and Lemon Blush that have come out in the last few years, but you don't see a ton of them out there in the marketplace because so many are still sold, you know, for landscaping, as tubers and that sort of thing. But so I'm thinking that this may be a real shot in the arm for caladiums, which is a great plant for us. They've got a new euphorbia called Diamond Snow. This actually has double flowers, so it's got a much fuller complement, if you will. Got Diamond Mountain, which is a big one. And so anyway, just adds to the palette of the different euphorbias that you can get from Proven Winners. Saw a lot of Calibrachoas, and you know, I'm not a huge fan of Calibrachoa because of their not so good tolerance to heat and humidity, but sometimes they catch my eye, and I still think a lot of them are good container plants. This is a new Super Bell's compact section of the series, and these I'm thinking might be good, if nothing else, is potted plants to give us color, especially in the spring and the fall, and maybe not so much in the middle of the summer, but I think is something that could definitely do mixed containers and that sort of thing. They also had some new entries on the Super Begonas, which has been a good, very vigorous heat tolerant series for us, Sparkling Amethyst and Sparkling Rose. They also have an improved Bidens in the Goldilocks Rocks Improved, and still have their Campfire Biden. They've got a new addition to the Luscious series in Lantana. This one's called Golden Gate, and I think this is going to be pretty cool. The Luscious series is a much bigger, more mounding plant. This is a similar color to New Gold, but New Gold, of course, is a more spreading type. So this is going to be a little bit different habit, and it's also got some size on it, so you can use it pretty boldly, I think, in the landscape. New Farinaceae type salvia called Unplugged So Blue. This one is kind of a Farinaceae on steroids, according to the Proven Winners folks. So we'll see how that does for us. Usually these types do quite well. We've got a new salvia in the Rockin' series called Blue Suede Shoes, and that's a close-up of the flowers. So anyway, and I think a nice addition to this particular group. Improvement on the Scavullos also, which we have seen a world of change in the Scavullo world over the last 15 plus years, and they continue to get better. So anyway, this is a pretty cool thing. Pretty large flowers for a Scavullo as well. A couple of new entries to the Coleus Color Blaze series. We've got Wicked Hot and Wicked Witch. I'm really interested to see particularly how the Wicked Hot does. The Coleus with these types of colors can sometimes have a little bit of a tough time out in full sun, so we'll see how they do. They do a little bit better in the shade, but this one hopefully will be a little bit more sun tolerant, because it's really a cool color to have in Coleus. Let's see, Charlie, are the slides advancing for you?
They are. Yep. Try it again.
I wonder, hold on just a minute. Well, I'm not getting any response here from my keyboard.
Yeah, I can see your mouse moving over it.
Oh, here we go. Maybe it'll work there we go. Okay, it's shifted me over to mouse somehow, but that's okay. We can deal with this. Okay, sorry about that. Ipomea, Sweet Carolyn Red Hawk, I think is a nice addition, and is a cool color. I like these red ones. It's again, the Sweet Carolyn series is a little bit more compact, but it is still a sweet potato. The Gaillardia Heated Up series looks like a pretty large version of this, so it'll be interesting to see what that vigor can bring to our high temperature landscapes. All right, and then on up the road toward a little closer to Gilroy is Syngenta, and we were greeted by a huge wall of Calliope geraniums, which is one of their hallmark plants. A few new things as far as cool season. I don't think I've mentioned the Kirigami series of Acalysia before. These are nice and compact, uniformly blooming as a series, so is a pretty cool plant. A new series of Erissimum Irresistible that I think will be pretty interesting, or at least new to me. There's several different colors that I think might be good for cool season use for us. Some new additions in the Free Fall series, which is a spreading pansy type. This is the yellow blotch. We've got Morpho, and then also a new color in the Delta Premium series, which is used quite a bit in the South, the lavender blue shades. Moving on indoors to some of the main shows, one of the big introductions here is the new Impatiens Amara series. You're also going to see another series later, but these series are being introduced as having disease resistance to downy mildew. And so this is a big deal for these companies because Impatiens in the past has been such an important bedding plant crop for our industry. These you can see some of the different colors that they've got in the series. They also had a nice little demonstration where they inoculated the plants, and you can see the Amaras in the back and the other ones, the susceptible ones, in the front. So anyway, that was interesting to see, and also got have some improvements in the Cora series, and they're calling these XDR, extra disease resistant, and now supposed to have some more resistance to some of the strains of aerial Phytophthora that were showing up in some of our Cora plantings. And there you can see what it looks like on the rack with some of the different colors that they've got. They also had some new colors in the Lobelia Techno series, and I mentioned this because Lobelia is not normally particularly heat tolerant, but this series has done fairly well for us, and I know does well up on the high plains with the cooler nights. This is the Techno Lilac, and this is the Blue Violet, so nice improvements there. And I'm not sure how this dahlia would perform here, but how can you not take a picture of something so beautiful as that, especially with such big flowers? So this one's called Sincerity. Usually these dahlias that have a lot more vigor and everything tend to do a little bit better for us, especially with the newer breeding. So I guess I'm kind of holding out hope that this might fall into that category. Then on Lantana, they've got a new hot-blooded red, not really associated with a series, but it looks like a more compact type. And some nice colors. So we'll see how that one works out. Lantana, of course, being terribly heat tolerant for us. Okay, and then over in the Gilroy area, we went to see American Taki, and they had a couple of nice new things to look at. They have a new series of zinnia called the Preciosa series. And anyway, these are some of the different colors. And there's the also the tropical blend, which is a pretty nice blend. Looks like a smaller flowering type, but lots of flowers. So this is going to be kind of an interesting one to take a look at. They also had a new digitalis, which was quite impressive, called Pink Panther. And this is from seed. I don't believe it needs any cold. So this could be kind of an interesting product for us, as well as a late winter, early spring type thing. They also had some new double begonias, the Fiona series. This is the Fiona Rose, which I think would be an interesting novelty item, maybe even better like as a container crop. Also, OHP was there, as they have been in the past, and they had some nice demonstrations. This is one of different levels of drench of their Paco product on cannas. Taki is known for their cannas, and there's a lot of them that are quite vigorous that might need some growth regulator control while they're in the containers for production. So then back across town from Gilroy to Secaucus, and we saw in some of the cool season things they had an improved ornamental cabbage Nagoya Red, supposed to be later to bolt, so this could be a good thing. I also have always liked these speedy sonnets. They bloom quickly from seed, and they also good winter flowering. And you can see the new purple one on the left, and then also over on the right is the improved rose. They also had a nice display of their Super Cal Petunia series, which is a cross between Petunia and Calibrachoa. They had a great demonstration showing the rain tolerance of the flowers, which I thought was a pretty clever way to kind of show this off. And there were some also new colors, the Lavender Star and also Snowberry White added to the series. These are also great cool season crops for us, even in containers for winter use. They also had a new Marigold series, which has pretty long stems. As you can see, they can be used as cuts. It's an African type, so that means it's got lots of vigor. So that could be something real interesting for us to take a look at. The Sun Patience, they have, of course, is a big item for them. So they had a big display, and they've got some new colors. Again, from left to right, we've got the vigorous orange, we've got vigorous lavender splash, and then up on top, the compact orchid blush. And then on the right down there is the vigorous tropical orange, which I really like these tropical types with the variegated foliage. Even if there's a little bit less flowering in the summer, the foliage really carries the day. But again, I have best luck with either full day of shade or maybe half day of morning sun with this particular plant. They also are entering the large begonia, fibrous begonias arena, and this is the new Viking series that they have with big flowers and big bold foliage, and some nice combinations of flower and foliage color. They also have added to the Zinnia Profusion series a new cherry bicolor. It's a nice shot of using it in a window box there. And then also a new addition to the Party Time Coleus series called Reggae Salmon. I also did want to mention, I think I've mentioned before this ping pong series, but we do have it in trial this year, and I'm kind of anxious to see how this is going to do. Gomphrena does so well, and this is kind of a medium size one, larger than the pinball, which we've done with them. And these are from seed as opposed to being vegetative. All right, then travel for a couple of hours down the coast, down toward the mid-coast area in California is Dumon Orange. And they never fail to disappoint with new introductions. I wanted to start off with them with a few of their perennial items. This is a garden phlox, the Flame series. We've had some luck with this particular series. They bloom quite early, and you can see some of the new colors here. This is the White Flame Improved, which is an improvement over the others. And then this early series is another series that's done well. The early white in particular has done well for us. So I wanted to make note of this one. Also, they had some nice combinations of perennials. This is a Daisy Sweet Christine with the Gaillardia spin top and red large flower and the Coreopsis moon swirl. With the idea that these are things that, you know, they're not necessarily going to bloom all summer, but these are going to bloom for a very long period of time and be something different in the mixed container market. And I'm also happy to see that they're using things that are fairly heat tolerant. So it's something that, as a mixed container, you know, we can do nicely in our part of the country. Also, the Dianthus, I wanted to mention this Olivia series. This has held up. You know, they're not particularly long-lived anyway, but to get 2 or 3 seasons out of some of these, which I have, is something that I think is worth taking note of. More Bidens, Biddy Boom Bonfire. So I've got a new color on that one. And it looks like bigger flowers are kind of the name of the game in that world. So a couple of new coleus, the Stained Glassworks Velvet, which I think is an interesting color combination. And then also a new addition to the Main Street series called Beale Street, which is a kind of the red addition to the series. So it's a nice, that'll help round out that series, I think, as far as color selections. Again, Calibrachoas are a little bit tough, but these have really big flowers and they do have good vigor. And so I've been impressed with how some of in this series have done for us in containers. And this is a new color for the Bloomtastics, which are their larger flowered ones. These Aloha Nani they do have fairly decent sized flowers, but these are much smaller, more compact plants. I think these are going to be better for, you know, maybe mixed containers and maybe also for different, like spring and fall season, as opposed to something that you'd have in midsummer. They've also got a new series of Delosperma, which I think could be interesting, especially in the drier parts of the state, perhaps along Interstate 35 and west. But this is the Rock Crystal series, should be quite cold hardy, so could be something interesting over west of here in North Texas as well. New Guineas, the Magnum series is, these plants are not huge, but they have very large flowers, which is a good thing because in the summer flowers get smaller, so starting out bigger is good. And these are some new colors, the light lavender, Fire 2020, and the magenta. And then also we've got a couple of new additions with the variegated foliage, the Jazzy Coral and Jazzy Hot Pink. So I think these, I mentioned the variegated foliage earlier. I think this is a pretty cool addition to this particular series. Okay, also a new Guinea called Rollercoaster, and these actually have double flowers, which makes it relatively unique. It'll be interesting to see how it does in our climate here. But anyway, there's a close-up. You can see the double flowers. And anyway, so an interesting development in the world of New Guinea impatiens. Also, a couple of additions to the Empress Sun Verbena series. This series has been quite heat tolerant for us. This is a new compact section of the genus, and so that's going to be it's going to be interesting to see if they have the same kind of heat tolerance without having quite as much vigor. Though the whole series is a little bit more compact to begin with. Also, they had an amazing number of new pot mum type varieties, and this one caught my eye as a person who remembers when we used to buy real football mums to give to our girlfriends in the fall. So Anyway, that I guess that may date me a little bit, but I thought this was pretty cool and something that that might catch folks' attention. And then some of the bright colors. This is from the Rainbow series, Circus and Sunset. I thought was pretty cool. So interesting additions to the world of potted mums. And that's just a close up of the spin top yellow touch, which is one of the Gaillardias that they've got in their perennial line. Okay, and then also not too far from there, we stopped into Windmill Nursery and saw our friends at J. Berry Nursery, and they had a couple of interesting things to take a look at. I think these crown jewel begonias have intrigued me, and we're going to be doing some trials with these. They've got some colors that are already available. This is one called Joyful Jasper. But I really love some of these experimentals that they have that they are planning to release in the future. And so anyway, this one looks pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to the future of that. They also had a good show, of course, of their Hollywood hibiscus, and you just can't help yourself but stop and take pictures of flowers like this. This is the one called Runway Beauty, and anyway, quite showy. All right, then we finally made it down to the southern end of our journey and getting to ball horticulture with all the different companies that are part of the ball world. And started out looking at the things from Pan American Seed, and we were reminded that next year is going to be 25 years of wave petunias, which just doesn't seem possible. It seems like they just came out yesterday. But anyway, that's something that you'll probably be seeing more of next year. They have a new color, Carmen Velour, in the Waves series. And also in the Easy Waves, they've added Lavender Sky Blue. They've also added some improvements and new colors in the Lucky Star Pentas series, which is a good series from Seed. This is the white has been improved. And also they've added the lipstick color. And I also wanted to mention that in this series, this Lucky Star Deep Pink has just been a really superb performer for us. That color seems like is more vigorous and heat tolerant for pentas. And anyway, this one does not disappoint. Very heavy flowering in the field. They did some plug and play with Ornamental Peppers, and if you'll remember, their plug and play program is you receive the plugs that can be potted up at the same time, and these are selected to grow uniformly and finish uniformly so that you can have a mixed container from plugs like this. So anyway, I thought this was a very clever idea, and peppers are such a great one for us, even for late summer, for fall sales. This would be a really awesome product, I think. Some new Celosia Concertina. I think these are mainly for containers. These are going to be smaller plants, as you can see. And so anyway, just kind of a crazy different thing for the specialists out there. They also had a new Gerbera series. These are not really bred for so much for garden use as they are for potted plants, so I'll just mention them in passing that way. But they are bred. I think what's kind of unique about them is they are bred particularly for the quart size 4 or 5 inch type pot market. So anyway, those are interesting. This is the other series of the Impatiens that I was mentioning when I spoke of the Amaras earlier. This is the Beacons, and they are also reputed to have downy mildew resistance, and there's been a lot of development go into all of these. These are some of the different colors that you can see. They also had a very nice demonstration showing the strong effect that downy mildew has on other susceptible varieties. And so anyway, that's good to see. And this is going to be really interesting. This could be potentially, I mean, I think one of the more landmark things that's come out this year because of the importance of impatiens to the bedding plant market in the United States. They also have a really interesting new collection of different tuberous begonias. This is the Sundancer series. These are supposed to be a little bit more heat tolerant. I mentioned earlier when I talked about the Boliviensis series about the fact that it's not so much heat that kills some of these things as it is overwatering. So we're doing container trials with these, and hopefully if we don't get too much rain from our El Nino this summer, we will have begonias doing well out in our shade trial. There's also the Amera hybrid group. There's different types. What you see in the middle here are the rose form types, and then there's also the ruffled types which were quite impressive as far as flower size. I'm not going to hold my breath on flower size like that in Texas, but anyway, this is a pretty cool plant. So we'll see if they've got any heat tolerance. It could be kind of exciting if they do, especially for high-end specialty type container market. They've improved their euphorbia from seed. The glamour improved. Got a new Kufia out called Pink Shimmer, which I might think has a lot of possibilities for filler in mixed containers. They've also got a new color in both the Serena and Serenita series, with the Serena Rose on the left. And as you can see, this is a really good example of the difference in the habit between those two series. This is Angelonia from seed, of course, and one of our Texas superstars is the Serena, and then the Serenitas are a little bit more compact in comparison. Some cool season items from Pan American. They've added a couple of colors to the spreading pansy cool wave series, strawberry swirl and raspberry swirl. Also got a new viola series called the QuickTime series, which is, I think, pretty cool. A lot of these are reminiscent of the old Johnny Jump Ups, and I think that was kind of the intent and purpose here. So anyway, this could be something pretty cool for us. Got Dianthus Floral Lace Red, and a new addition to that series, which has been an excellent winter Dianthus crop for us. They also had some new basils. These are back to a couple of food items, and we'll move into some perennials, but they had Everleaf Emerald Towers on the left and Newton on the right. These have very nice kind of mild but spicy flavors that don't have any bitterness is one of the things. And then also on this Emerald Towers, this is what you can do with that plant, which is kind of cool. It grows upright, and anyway, lends itself to a lot of different uses and pretty cool looking in containers actually. Moving over to some of the perennials that, with Kieft, this is a new leucanthemum called Madonna, and which grows all of these are things that grow flower first year from seed. Also some new Salvia nemorosas. We've got Salvatore Blue, and also New Dimension Blue on the right, Rose Improved on the left. I've become very interested in this species. They had a couple of introductions last year, the Blue Bayou and Sky Blue Marvel, which just really knocked my socks off, as far as performance of this species. So we've got a big collection of Salvia nemorosas. We've got about 28 different varieties that are going into trial this year, so including these. So I'm really looking forward to that, to see how those things perform. They also extended their plug and play into these XXL combos, which most are things that are perennial in nature. So you get a lot of different species like Echinacea and Gaillardia and things like that can be used in these. So anyway, these are pretty cool. So they've put together some recipes for these that work. Here's one with Gaillardia and Leicester and Daisy that look like they play pretty well together, which is the whole point of this, of course. Okay, moving into some of the vegetative things. This is from Selecta. They showed a huge dahlia collection, and some of these I think were new series and some improvements and additions to other series. I'm particularly interested in this Venti series, which seems to be a new series. And this is one called Tequila Sunrise. It's a very vigorous series and has really nice sized flowers. And my experience with the XXL series from Dumon has shown me some of this newer breeding with the more vigorous growth and everything and larger flowers may do better in our heat. So I've got high hopes for this. That's a close up of the flowers. And this is it used with another color, the pink with white eye in the same series. There's the Venti Light Rose. Anyway, some pretty cool stuff. This is one called Passion Fruit, which I thought was particularly nice. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to trialing those. Also, a few of the Calibrachoas I wanted to point out here. We've had pretty good luck with their double Calibrachoas in the Mini Famous series. This is one of the Mini Famous, and they've now separated this series into sections. This is the Neo, which is more of a medium or larger size plant. This is one of the singles, the light pink plus eye. And then in the Uno series, it's much more compact. And so again, as I mentioned with the Proven Winner Super Bells compact varieties, these I think are going to do well in smaller containers, maybe a more limited use as far as season goes, but something that, I mean, look at all those flowers on there. How could you not take one of those home with you if you were visiting the garden center? So there you go. All right, some new Color Rush vegetative trailing type petunias. They've added a lot of colors to this series. There were only a couple of colors before. Purple is one of the new colors. So anyway, that's going to be, I think, an interesting addition. More Bidens. These look to be a little bit more compact. Be Happy Orange and Be Happy Red improved, but these are new colors in the series. So I'm glad to see this continue to improve. I think the interesting container plants for us. I'm not so sure about in the ground, but I think they're worth doing stuff with containers in these. The Geranium Galaxy series was presented to me as something that should be for us in large containers. So that's how we're going to take a look at these. And so that will be, it's a new series that's a little bit more tailored to that as opposed necessarily to garden use in our part of the country anyway. The Fantasia series, this is Pink Flare. I got a couple of new colors. The Fantasias have done very well as a garden plant, even down in San Antonio. And so we've been taking a closer look at these for the Texas Superstar program. So I was very pleased to see the new colors coming in. This is one called Fuchsia Berry. So anyway, looking forward to seeing those. And this is, they did have an improvement on the Ipomoea Solar Tower series. And of course, this is the sweet potato that will grow up as trainable up some type of arbor or something like that, as opposed to being one that's just going to grow on the ground. A couple of new salvias, Roman Red and Purple and Bloom, to complement some of the other things that they've got on their list. New coleus called Heartbreaker. Not a lot of new coleus this year, but a few of them. And then a new series of zinnias called the Zesties. Again, these reminded me a little bit of the new things that we saw at Taki with a little bit smaller flower, but very bushy plants. This is a picture of the series in containers with some of the different colors and the blends that are available on that. Moving to Ball Ingenuity, this is a new begonia called the Betulia series, and this is kind of a Riger type begonia, which is going to be a good potted plant, of course, but I'm thinking maybe kind of interesting. We're going to do this in the containers in the shade this summer. Hold up very well in shipping, if you'll notice the pot that's turned upside down. And anyway, they were bouncing these around for us, and that is quite impressive that those flowers didn't break off or whatever when they did that. So pretty cool stuff.
That
And
is
then
cool.
and then some perennials from Darwin Perennials, the Achilleas up on the top, the Millie series Rock Rose and Rock Red, and then also down around the bottom a Veronica called Moody. This is Moody Blue's Dark Pink, and there is of course a blue in the series. More compact, I think, which could be pretty interesting. The blue one has done well in our trials, so I'm hoping that this continues. New penstemon called Quartz Red, which we've got blooming in the garden. That looks pretty good right now. I'm not sure how it's going to take the heat of the summer, but we'll see how that goes. And then also the Digitalis Arctic Fox Rose. So same on the top, and then on the bottom we've got a new Nepeta called Blue Prelude, which looks to me to have much larger flowers than a lot of the Nepeta that I've seen out there in the past. So that looks like an interesting development on that front. And then last but not least, we did make it over to GrowLink, where there are several different nurseries. And in particular, we saw at Plant Haven, there was a new group of geraniums called Tall, Dark, and Handsome. And these are pretty interesting. You can see how, especially on the left there with the coral, how they've got that trained up into these tall containers, and eventually they kind of grow out, and so you just get this tall tower of geraniums. Now this is not going to be a big box item, I don't think, but I mean, can you imagine the high-end stuff that you can do with this, with some of these nicer landscapes, more formal type settings and anything. So anyway, I think pretty cool and interesting plant as far as taking care taking advantage of this type of habit with geraniums. We also saw a nice display at Centauri. They had all the colors for the this vinca, the soiree kawaii types, and which I think are awesome container plants, but also have very good in-ground performance, very good heat tolerance. Also, they've got some new colors in their Cerdiva series. I think I mentioned Scavullo, how much it's improved over the years, and this Cerdiva series has done quite well for us and has a very nice habit as far as hugging the ground. And this is the new purple, and then they've improved the white as well. They also had a new addition to the Sun Rosa series, and don't see a lot of roses, out at spring trials, but I have tried some of the Sun Roses in the past, and they've been actually quite good and fairly tolerant of disease. So anyway, this will be an interesting new addition. See how that one does for the as far as being a yellow color, because sometimes they're more susceptible to disease. So it's always good to have a more resistant one. Okay, then we found at Florist Holland displays. You'll see here some of the Garvey Nia Sweet series. We're continuing to trial and work with these as far as garden plants. As you know, a lot of these get diseases and things like powdery mildew and stuff, and don't become very good garden plants, but these were bred for garden use. So we're doing some more work with those. I have had best luck with these, doing something with a little bit, at least afternoon shade or whatever, but some of these colors do well. They do have a new color in the series called Sweet Frosting. So they're continuing to expand the series that's got a good growth habit. But our long-lived perennials, once they do get established in a place that they like to be. And I will end with this is a variety in that series called Sweet Memories. So anyway, it was a great trip. We had a very good time. I thought it was a good show at first. You get finished with it and you think, well, there really wasn't that much new stuff. But as I go back and look at my slides and everything, there were a lot of new additions, new colors. We had some new series, and then of course with I think the big introductions of the Amaras and the Beacons is going to be a big deal for the industry. So anyway, overall a pretty good spring trial. There's lots of great new stuff out there.
Wow, Brent, that was incredible. It's I mean, you do that so well, and I'm never whenever I look at it, see how many slides you've got, I thought, wow, there's no way, but you really cover a lot of ground there, and of course, there are some money makers in here. There's some very impressive plant materials that are distinct enough that they're going to cause consumers to stand up and take notice. So in fact, some of these I'm thinking about some consumer behavior research that could do on this. So this is a great job. Now, we
Thanks.
didn't have any questions that people posted during the webinar. So I just remind everyone that now's your chance to ask Brent any particular question about these. While you're perhaps typing those in, I'll remind you that there's the handout. In fact, that was the number one question last year, Brent, was can I get a handout for this? And so we circumvented that question by go ahead and uploading the handout. And so you, just as a refresher, you can go down to your handouts tab in your control panel for GoToWebinar and click on the CAST 2019 Pemberton handout, and you can download that Word file if you haven't already done so. And if you need a refresher about some of the comments that okay, got a question here. Did you stop elsewhere? Did you stop elsewhere but found nothing too exciting, or did you pretty well cover? That was the question. Did you stop elsewhere but found nothing too exciting?
I did cover all the stops that we made. So there
Okay.
were, as always, trying to work out these schedules and everything, there were a couple of places. We didn't make it to Speedling. There were several places there. We've been there the last 2 or 3 years, and I probably mentioned some things there. So there were, like I said, there's a lot of stuff there to see, but there wasn't a place that I stopped that I didn't make some note of something that I thought was outstanding to take a look at.
Okay. Now, there's another question. Will this slide program be available online later? Of course, the recording of the webinar will be online, and as I indicated early on, you'll be getting a link to that recording within the next 24 hours. And there is the handout, but the slides themselves, Brent, you'll have to make the call on that one, whether you supply those slides or whether they're proprietary.
Yeah, I usually keep those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the best thing's going to be for them to be able to see the recording.
Yeah. See the recording. If you need the actual visual to go along with the handout. And then there's another one. Hi, Brent. Great presentation. Thank you. Big focus on new genetics. How about new technology for growers?
I think one of the technology things that we did see that stands out in my mind was something we saw at Dumon Orange. And it's they are doing the cuttings. Dadgummit, I can't remember the name of it, but they're doing the cuttings in the little where they insert them in the strips, and they're actually being able to put a root on those, and they do it kind of in a hydroponic type system. Somebody from Dumon could give you a much better description than I am, of course, but anyway, they basically are able to put a root on those things so that when you get them, you basically have a rooted cutting, and they're able to do this because they're doing it, I think, in agroponics or whatever, and they're not doing any using any soil or media with that. They are able to do that and ship those, like they would an unrooted cutting.
Are you
And
talking about the
so
auto sticks, Brent?
it's something like that, and there's a name for
Yeah.
that particular system for them, and unfortunately I don't have that right in front of me. I apologize to the Dumon Orange folks for that. But
Basewell?
Basewell, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me go down the list here. Man, we went from drought to like we're flooding over with questions now. Okay. The recording is great. Oh, awesome. That's a good comment. Amazing presentation. I believe it is called Basewell. Yeah. So thanks, Lauren, for popping that in there. But I'd done my Google search in the
You were quick on the
meantime.
draw.
Yeah. Oh, and Emily mentioned to skip Basewell too. Yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
thanks for the input, folks. And all right, last call for any other questions. I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, Brent, thank you so much. It's outstanding information. Just a reminder to folks that you'll be getting the link to the recording on my website. It'll be residing along with the handout, so you'll have access to this until next year at this time when Brent does the next one. So Brent, thank you again. You're an awesome presenter, and you make this come alive with your pictures and your commentary. So thank you. Well done. And thanks, folks, for being here today. So we'll close out the day, and y'all have a great rest of your spring season. And hopefully some of this spring season will continue into the summer. All right, y'all have a great day.